Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Good afternoon, it's John, and I just wanted to say a bit before moving on to our next module on semiotics. And one of the things is I'm going to encourage you to think about getting an ad relatively quickly in all this, because I'm going to be asking everybody to do a semiotic analysis, which means really spending a bit of time with the ad to try to tease out what is being said implicitly and explicitly and how it's being said. So I find this stuff to be incredibly interesting, so I hope you do too. It gets a little perhaps complicated at first, but I'm going to hopefully walk you through this in a way that will make it interesting and exciting for you too. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the last module in terms of assignments that you turned in. Because we don't meet face to face, we really don't interact much save on the discussion questions, and I really wanted to give you a sense of what other people were thinking and doing. In respect to the political advertising, it was pretty much agreed that the advertisements from the 50s, I like Ike, you like Ike, were probably not especially effective or wouldn't be effective today, although techniques, this is very hard sell, right? I like Ike, you like Ike, everybody likes Ike, just repetition ad nauseum. You're kind of pummeled with it. So even if you don't like what you're hearing, you're likely to remember it. And that technique is, again, certainly visible today. I'd like to also go back to the Volkswagen commercial that ended our last module and just look at it a little bit in the direction of semiotics and bring some ideas into play here. So we notice right away this is animated. They've taken actual filmed videotape footage and animated over it. And what you get as a consequence is this sort of lack of detail. Everything is kind of flat, which on some level, one could argue, makes it more universal. The specificity of the place, for example, gets lost. So too do the specificity of the characters. And arguably, this is a way that we can kind of project our own fantasies onto what's happening here. And what's happening here is a series of heightened events that revolve around an automobile, which is kind of interesting. And so to allow this to play, we have this child looking out. And the second shot, again, the same form of animation, and we have the Volkswagen dead center of the car, almost as if it's the bringer of light, and these two characters converging with a smile, and over the car, which presumably, again, dad is bringing in, we're getting almost the child kicking the tires to make sure it's okay. And a leap in time of maybe a decade where we get two characters in a car, one of whom seems to be learning how to drive. And again, we put this together, right? It's almost impossible not to think of the character on the right as the young boy we saw earlier, and the man on the left as dad. And again, a cut taking us a few years forward again, and brighter, another heightened moment, this one where love comes into play at a music festival, it would seem, looking very much like Woodstock. So really importantly is the soundtrack on top of all this. So it begins with the solo piano piece, relatively mournful, a lot of minor key stuff going on there, and we begin to recognize it's Let It Be. It's a Beatles song. And it's not just any Beatles song, it's Let It Be.